Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be back today with my friend Roxanne Sukol. For those of you who missed our first segment discussing the 3 pillars of our wellness, I hope that you'll go back and take a listen. But for now, let me tell you that Roxanne Sukol is an internist with special expertise in preventive medicine and physician wellness. She and I went to medical school together and have been friends for a long time. It's been a joy to watch her career blossom as she's become an internationally respected voice in this domain, practicing at one of the major hospitals here in the Cleveland, Ohio area. In addition, she's a blogger, and you can find her work at yourhealthisonyourplate.com. So today we're going to continue our conversation about our wellness by diving into one of the 3 pillars that she views as essential to our well-being, and this is the patterns of our activity. So Roxanne, tell us a little bit about this aspect of wellness. I'm curious to hear what you want to offer us.
So let's just go back briefly. In my last discussion with you, we talked about how wellness is based on a pyramid of patterns of eating patterns, activity patterns, and rest and relaxation patterns, and that there's tremendous synergy. So if you go for a great walk, you sleep better that night. If you get a lousy night's sleep, you circle the vending machines all day or the fridge. And if you eat too much, you don't feel like moving. So you can see how activity is an essential piece of this synergy, and how if you're missing any one of them, you don't have synergy. And the synergy works so that you can leverage small changes to add up to a lot of change overall. So the reason I call it activity patterns and not exercise is that your body doesn't care if you put on special clothes and drive to a special building. You're just trying to warm your muscles. And all the different ways that there are to warm your muscles count. Now, I'm not an exercise physiologist, and I don't know a lot about aerobic exercise as opposed to balance, resistance, flexibility, or optimal types of each. But I do know that there's a role for all of them. And I know that if you're moving more this year than you were last year, then you're going in the right direction. And that's really what I'm trying to do, is to help people get the needle off empty. I also feel very strongly that we set such high expectations for ourselves in many cases that it becomes virtually impossible to sustain it. So I'm not interested in having you go to the gym every day for the next 2 weeks and then not again for a year and a half. I'm trying to give people ideas that they can incorporate now that are so benign and so relatively simple to adopt that it's practically as easy to do them as not. So a good example would be brushing your teeth on one foot. You might have to hold on. You might switch feet every 5 seconds. All of that's fine. I just want you to be able to say next year, wow, my balance is better now than it used to be. Or you could stretch out your neck in the shower, or you could do a little spine twist before you wake up in the morning, or before you get out of bed, I mean. Or you could do ankle rolls or trace the letters of the alphabet with your wrists. All of these count. In our society, we tend to put all our eggs in the aerobics basket.
Yeah.
We run marathons and we have Ironman competitions in America. In the Far East, that's where yoga and Tai Chi and martial arts, all the martial arts come from. So they have a better, more comprehensive understanding, I think, of the variety of different kinds of activities that we can do. And again, all of these count. So if you're already a runner and you'd like to just figure out a way to add a little bit more flexibility, then you could do some of these stretches and it would count. It makes a difference. If you're already taking a yoga class once a week, you could lay a mat out next to your bed and just do a few stretches before you go to bed at night, or when you get out of bed in the morning. I mean, frankly, if you have put a mat at the next to your bed, you're literally going to have to step over it to get out of bed. And that might turn out to be an ideal time to just do a little bit of stretching. I like to do a few cat cows and then go up into a down dog and stay there for a little while. I start every day that way. So basically what we're trying to do here is reduce the energy of activation. We're trying to make it as just as easy to do it as not, so that you're likely to do it more often and maybe even make it a habit. When people are trying to get more aerobic exercise, I usually recommend to them that they get a pedometer if they're not wearing one already. And that's because there's some research suggesting that people who wear a pedometer generally walk more every day than people who don't. That makes sense. You want to see how you did. You want to, you're competing with yourself essentially. But I don't want people to feel like they have to walk the 10,000 steps or they're a loser. That's not the goal. The goal is simply to be able to say, wow, I'm walking more now than I used to walk. And maybe the year after that, you'll kick it up another notch, or not. Maybe you're going to have a baby that year, and kicking it up a notch in the aerobics department is definitely not on the menu. But the idea would be that we're just trying to be kind to ourselves. We're trying to do things in a way that's consonant with our interests and our abilities, and not just our physical ability, but our bandwidth. For example, I will never be a runner. I love driving down the street and seeing people run, and I wish I were a runner. I've tried to be a runner, but that's never going to happen for me. So instead of torturing myself, I'm going to own the fact that I'm a walker. I could walk to the ends of the earth, but I can't run there. I have to walk there. So I'm going to basically respect my abilities and my limitations and my interests and my anatomy, and I'm only going to do the things that work for me. I'm not going to torture myself or try and put a square peg in a round hole. And I think this has to be enough. It may not meet the goals of what the research shows, but again, I'm in this for the long haul. Whenever people make a change, I want them to ask themselves, could I do this for 6 months? No matter what it is. If it's meatless Mondays, or no matter what it is. If the answer is, yeah, totally, I could do that for 6 months, no problem, then I would say definitely try it. Go for it. See where it takes you. But if they say, I don't know that I could do this for a week, I say, then don't bother. Don't even try. And part of the reason is that if you watched my conversation with you about rest and relaxation, the more stress we're under, the kinder we need to be to ourselves, and the more we need to protect our vagal tone and our ability to take our brain off the rails. And when you are hard on yourself because you don't meet certain self-imposed expectations, then you're contributing to your stress, and you're creating a vicious cycle that thwarts your ability to make progress in taking better care of yourself. So I only really want people to do things that they think that there's a good chance they can be successful at. And that thread runs through all of the teaching and coaching and guidance that I share with patients.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking about the people who are under extraordinary stress, be it as a result of malpractice litigation, unexpected complications in their patients. Right now, we're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, or for any other reason on the personal or professional front. I think, there is very little benefit in engaging in activities that cause us to become more self-critical, right?
That's the last thing you need.
It's absolutely true. I think it's very natural to feel self-critical in the middle of malpractice litigation, or to feel self-critical after a bad outcome. And I think we're going to struggle with feeling self-critical around feeling like we can't give every patient the really very, very most robust care we'd like should we find ourselves overwhelmed by volumes of patients in the face of coronavirus. So I think your point is very well taken, that we've got to turn a little bit of a softer light on ourselves and ask, how can I in this moment just give myself a little bit of grace, give myself a little bit of care. And
one more thing about exercise or activity patterns, and the fact that your muscles just want to be warm. They don't care how they get warm. But the last point I'd like to make is that sometimes people are very lucky to be some of those people for whom activity is a mindfulness exercise. And those people can, as far as I'm concerned, they can count their blessings that that activity is what takes their brain off the rails and makes time melt away. So if you're one of those people, I applaud you, and you should trust your judgment and continue to do those things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I suspect there are probably different forms of activity that do that for various individuals. For me, walking is that. Walking is like medicine for me. There are other forms of athletic activity that don't get me into that same zone. I know there are lots of runners who get in a zone when they run. And I have a son who I think gets into the zone when he's rock climbing. So, you know.
Right. That's right. Yoga certainly has a strong component of that for people.
Yeah, yeah. So finding the activity that can do that for you is probably a key element of the creativity involved.
Right, right. Agreed.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think we'll wrap this conversation up for now. We're going to come back to you with additional conversations on this pyramid. So I hope you'll join us then.